Posłuchaj podcastów Estrady Poznańskiej. Znajdź najlepszy dla siebie. O bogatej historii estrady. Podcast filmowy Kina Muza. O kobietach i kulturze, nie tylko dla kobiet. O muzyce i artystach, których warto posłuchać. O grach i kulturze grania. Podcast dla rodziców. Jak nie zwariować. Podcast o serialach. Podpowiadamy, co zobaczyć. Do usłyszenia.
Hello everybody, I'm very honored to welcome my guest and of course the audience that is unfortunately online right now. I hope there is a lot of you watching our Q&A session to sixth short film competition set, which name is Crouching Evil, Hidden Good. I hope the title of the set said something already to you, and you, of course, after the screening. So I hope there will be questions from the audience. I'm prepared for it, but of course, I have also some of my own questions. First of all, I like to introduce you to our special guest. Okay, so I start with only woman in our directing party. So I'd like to welcome Shoko Hara, the director of Just a Guy, straight from Stuttgart, Germany. Then we have two co-directors of the movie called Tamou. Both of them are right now in Tel Aviv, Israel, Tom Prezman and Tzor Edery. And another couple, but this time the director and a producer, Daniel Quirke, the director of Song of a Lost Boy, from London, England, and Jamie McDonald, producer of the film Song of a Lost Boy, also right now in London, England. Okay, guys, so first of all, I have this kind of general question to all of you, about maybe topics of your movie, because in some way, everybody of you touching this sensitive topic. In some of the movies, this topic is more sensitive. In other, maybe cheerish sensitive, but still there is some things like fate, sexuality, obsession, and other things. So my question is, the animation, is the animation allow you to make more metaphors? Of course, that's obvious, and it gives you more space to present these difficult topics. But do you ever think about the difficulties or some things that will stand on your way to set great things because of the animation? Maybe sometimes you want to just go straight with like live action movie, or you are as an animators prefer to go with this, metaphors and with techniques and the picture itself. I know it's a long question. I hope you remember this. Okay, so we can start with Shoko.
Okay, I consider to make the film with stop motion techniques and clay stop motion techniques. The puppet stop motion techniques I chose to protect the protagonist in the film because they wanted to, the second character, Sarah, the red-haired character, wanted to be anonymous. So I wanted to protect her. And also when you show their faces, they might get some shitstorms later. Who knows? Because it's a very difficult topic. So I decided to show them as puppets, but as authentic as possible, because I guess that the audience is also interested how they look like. And the other layer is the clay animation layer, which is about the past they're talking about. And they talk about love and obsession to the serial killer in prison. And I thought that clay animation fits to the topic because love is something positive, so something pinkish, positive, but also love to a serial killer is a little bit more ugly or smearly and uncomfortable. So I chose this kind of technique to make it a little bit ugly and smearly design.
Okay, thank you. Tom, Tzor, maybe you right now?
Oh, shall I? Or?
Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do the together.
Okay.
If I understood you correctly, I think. Sorry, we were more able to express ourselves in animation. We did digital to the animation, and just because the film happens in Morocco, that was just easier than doing live action because getting there is quite difficult. But we are more expressful in the animation. We can play with symbolism and metaphors more easily, much more easily than in live action. You can get to results that you can never get in live action.
Yeah.
Also, when it comes to the subject and how to express the subject in film, there is very little that already exists in this genre of like queer issues in the Middle East. There isn't really a lot to work off of, and we wanted to make something that kind of gives our own interpretation or creates our own like image of what it should be, and there isn't really a way to do it in live action that would be really true to something that only exists in somebody's internal world. Like there is very little that you can do in physical space, or that is like that we use a lot of like outside shot and a lot of like using the architecture and the space and the way that the characters are within it to tell the story. And I think that we have to make this sort of like imaginary space in order to tell a story that is not like a fantasy, but like a real quote unquote story that we can't really do in the way that we want to in a live action way.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, what about you?
I guess for me, it was being able to really kind of put this film in like a setting, like a desert, where the symbolism of the desert, where it's kind of typically shown as this place where you can have a discovery, a journey, and for this is a kind of coming of age sort of film where the character goes through this transitional stage of his life of growing up, and in order to be able to kind of show all these intricate moments of like the development of puberty, it was quite to be able to do that in animation around that time. It helped. To me, it gave sensitivity to the puppet and how you can kind of really begin to feel the puppet's emotion, the character, and through this journey. I also liked the kind of play between the wax puppets and the being in the desert, and how the kind of the heat affects the puppets whilst they're traveling through this hot landscape. Jamie, if there's anything you want to add.
Not massive on that. It's just I think that in the simplest terms, the great thing for us in this one is like we could do what we wanted. The only thing that was stopping us was, as the guys were saying prior to, you couldn't go all the way to Morocco, and we weren't going all the way to a desert and building a cathedral on a Tuesday afternoon. So the only thing that was stopping us was our budgetary obviously constraints, but the joy of animation, which is the fun of it, I think we found. Hopefully you did.
Okay, maybe I will stand with the song of The Last Boy. You mentioned about the journey and the searching and coming out of age. So I have a question that what is most important for your character in your way? Is this the journey, the searching, the process, or the ending? Like everything is happy in the end, of course. Maybe not, of course, but it is in your movie. But what is most important for your character?
I'd say it's the searching, because that allows that's the period of growth. I mean, if everything's happy all the time in life and everything's perfect, there's no growth really. And for this character, he had to go through this, starting at this point where his voice breaks and his whole world kind of turns upside down. To him at that point, it's a terrible moment, but it causes this kind of whole period of growth where he transitions from one place to another. He manages to grow as a person as a result.
Okay, thank you. Now I jump to Just a Guy. I know you probably hear this question like on every Q&A, but I need to ask it. How it begins, why you're in the first place was interested in the guy, and when you get in contact with Eva and Sarah. I read that you and Sarah was friends for some years, but why you go into it, and what was your feeling when he actually wrote to you?
Yes, I was friends with Sarah already when I was 15 or something, and she was already corresponding with Richard Ramirez for 3 years when I was 21. And it's well known that he has a feet fetish and fetish for Asian girls. And she wanted to make him a favor just to entertain him. And so she asked me to join her photo shootings when I was 21. It was 2011, kind of. And then I said yes. I think I was very naive at the time, and I didn't know him that much. I heard about it once through her, but I wasn't that into those serial killer stuff back then. And then he responds directly and sent this letter to Sarah, and she gave it to me. So I didn't have to wrote down my real address. And then when I received the letter, I was scared, and I thought it's getting serious. And then this moral question came. Not before that. Before that, it was out of curiosity, and it felt like I'm sending pictures to a celebrity, like normal celebrity. And then it got really serious, and I was scared that he might know someone else outside, like Charles Manson. could kidnap me or something. And then also that I was worried that he might lose his attention to her, because normally you wouldn't text with a love of your friend. But even though she told me that she doesn't mind. But then I forgot about it. And then I was looking for topic for my film, and I found it. How could I forget it? But yeah, I just remembered. And then I made a story and was questioning how the relationship really looked like and what kind of woman they are.
Okay, but sorry, but the follow-up question to this: in the process of making on this film and get some relation with other characters, Eva and Sarah, you understood what it's all about. You know, the thing to this man of women. It is some kind of Stockholm syndrome. I don't know, some kind of fascination, some kind of what? Because maybe for women's it will be like more clear, but for men's it's like whoa. It's like whoa.
Yeah,
and
back then it wasn't clear for me either. So I wanted to figure it out and wanted to understand it, because I thought these women are all groupies and wanted to have fame or to become famous or getting attention from a dangerous bad guy, and like from a rock star or something. And but now I kind of understand it, because I think it doesn't have anything to do with this Stockholm syndrome. It's more about the control thing, because these women got very disappointed in past from men, and the guys behind bars, they cannot escape, and they are always they always respond, and they even cannot have sex with other women. So they have the control over this man, but additionally they are at the same time very mean, horrible guys. And I think the mix does it, and mix makes interesting for them. Yeah.
Okay, but do you think there was actually real love in this relationships, or it was, like you said, the celebrity kind of relationship?
I can speak for Eva that she meant it, I think, very serious with him, because back then she had a very dark view of humanity and to the world, and she felt like this connection to him, because he described his view of life also as very dark, and he hated it. And they were both lunars, so she had this feeling that they are very close to each other. I mean, they were together for the first 7 years when he was in prison, and they were exclusive for the first 5 years, I guess. So he didn't accept any other female guests either. And I believe that Eva meant it very serious. For Sarah, it was only for her sexual benefit, and they were not that much love. I mean, she really liked him, and they told each other that they loved each other, but it was more, I think, this fascination and about this sexual interest, I guess. Because she's a very submissive girl.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll skip to Tamou, another one, another very sensitive, I can say, topic. First of all, maybe the question about your cooperation, because I'm always curious when there are two directors, how your work works, because do you have some departments that you're responsible for this, or you're responsible for this, or you are the whole process, it's like you made it together? There was arguments, or you just throw everything away, or how it looks?
Well, there is some sort of a division of labor between us, but we have a very good relationship when it comes to creation, when it comes to work. I think we're very good at completing each other in concept, in like if one of us goes really too wild in one way, we know where to keep the wildness and where to like tame it back a little bit. Like I know that personally I really need somebody to edit me and to help me with not going all over the place or keeping in a certain structure. And I'm sure that Tom also has like his own stuff that like I think we really, really complement each other. Usually I do more of like the art side of things, and Tom is more on the cinematic or the screenwriting. But we do everything, like everything goes through the both of us, and we like really lift each other's work up.
That is not true. No, I'm kidding. That's really how it is. We really work really good together, and the chemistry is kind of perfect when it comes to work. We did some projects in the early years in our degree. We met in Tzor Academy in Jerusalem, and we did a project on our second year together and third year, and then we just decided it's very clear we're going to do the graduation film together. And we're really happy from the result and also the cooperation between us.
Okay. Now get straight to the movie itself. First of all, I need to congratulate you about the courage, I guess. And that's my question: why you decide to write this delicate matter of a transgender person? I'm asking maybe not mostly, but I'm very curious how the situation of LGBTQ communities have in Israel. And I'm asking this because in Poland right now, the government, led a crusade against the LGBTQ communities. So how it looks in Israel. And the action of your movie take place in Morocco. So, sorry for the word, but it's a combo for me, So, what can you tell about the situation of, for example, your character, if it will be real or it was real?
Well, this is a very multi-layered question. In Israel, the situation of LGBT people is a bit more free, I guess, than in other parts of the Middle East, in the sense that it's not illegal or that there is a little bit more societal acceptance of it, although there is still a lot of violence and there is still a lot of inequality. But the thing with people in Israel, and like myself included, is that a lot of us come originally from other countries in the Middle East. My family is from Morocco, and it was important for us to make something that speaks not only about the local, but also to the rest of the world, and also to our personal history. Like me and Tom both work a lot with stuff to do with like the earlier parts of the 20th century, or with historical settings to show or like to represent real histories of queer people where we are told that there wasn't any. And because obviously right now the narrative, both in in the Middle East and in other places like Poland, is that this is something that shouldn't be, and this is something that wasn't before, and it's like a modern issue or something. And part of our work is to show that it is that it's always been, that it is part of society, that it is integrated into every aspect of society when it comes to like the space or the music, or like that at every level of the culture, it is part of it. And to me also personally, it was important to make something that speaks to my family, that I also have this issue with, like they also tell me, oh, back when we were in Morocco, we didn't have this thing. And it's like, but I can tell you that from learning and like looking up personal stories of people and research and history, and that it was there. And it was important to give this space that, like, this is how it could have been for me, for example, if I had been born 50 years ago.
I'll only say that I'm Tzor's family from Morocco. My family is from Poland. My dad was born in Wrocław. And so I guess it's actually really interesting, because if what Tzor says, me looking, if I've never been to, my family will never have gotten to Israel, I'd probably be still in Poland. So now it's like more personally affected me, the new rules of the Polish, like the certain parties in the Polish government. And so it's important to talk about this issue. And I'm really happy in the way that actually the Polish people and festivals in Poland receive Tamou very good. Like we feel like we have a crowd in Poland. That's really interesting comparison to what's happening politically. So I think there's still a dialogue, and there's like everywhere there's a lot of hope that things will be better than they are right now.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you for that words. Okay, now we skip to the song of Last Boy once again. In the description, we can read that the boy lost his faith. I was wondering, is it about the faith in God, or maybe more like faith in himself, or both? I don't know. Like he lost his self-confidence. I don't know. As I said before, and you know it, of course, in the end, we can see that this God pigeon, whatever you can call it, never left him, actually. He was always there. So is it about faith, like faith in God, or more the other way of meaning faith?
Yeah, it's to do with faith in God. For me, personally, is quite connected with my own experience in the sense of when growing up, there's a point. So I've been brought up in a religious family, and so growing up, there's a point in teenage years where it just I started to question everything, and it felt like for this moment where his voice breaks, it's the kind of the perfect point for this change to happen, where the kind of metaphor of all of his world kind of turning upside down, and he questions where he's from, where he wants to be, and the kind of the tension of teenage years where you compare yourself to others, and in the sense of seeing this cool kind of nomadic group that go past, that he wants to be with them, but also this thing of this faith in God, that if God really loved me, how could he allow this thing to happen? Or and so this kind of whole journey for him, and rediscovering that he can be wherever he is at any point, and still have this kind of relationship, and be anyone and do anything, and that this bird is still there, and that he can express this as well, that not something that to hide and be ashamed of, but that people accept him as well, that as he found at the end, not that to hide it and not to kind of run away from it. But yeah, it's quite because of the use of the metaphor. Not everyone understands that it's to do with faith in God, and we were quite happy for that to remain that way. That it's not something that it's not something that it's a film that I want people to be able to take their own kind of personal experience from it, that it doesn't have to be just to do with faith in God. It can be faith in themselves as a person.
Okay. Jamie, you want to add something about this? Because I have another question, maybe more to you. I hope, maybe not. I hope, but I want to ask about the creative process of your movie, because it is not usual technique you are using. Jamie have a little surprise for us. I hope he will show it. And I have the question about this: to Jamie, if the Daniel was tough to work with him, and how many hours you can use those puppets because of the material. I hope you will see. You will enlighten us with this. And it looks like an hour. Oh, yeah, that's the guy. And looks like it looks like it was an hours of animation. Which part of the process was most difficult for you both?
I'll go through like how we did it. So it took us beginning to end 13 months, I think, was the full process of making the film, which for 10 minutes is a long time. And so that is, a couple of months development, then in writing, and then we animated in total May to January, I think, something like that. So that's many, many months of Dan and Richard, our lead animator, locked in a dark room together with some other people coming in and out, animating about 10 hours a day. If that sounds about right, Dan. What was your second part of your question? Sorry.
The difficulties and the material and what, because I don't really tell what was the material.
The material, and Dan can correct me. So it's straight wax. Dan, actually, you're best to talk about the wax. Yeah. We bought kilos and kilos of the stuff.
So to start, I kind of had to experiment with different types of wax. Because each one had a different melting point. Each one was some were brittle, and so it was trying to experiment with which one was the best to animate as puppets. And so this is a microcrystalline wax, and it has a decent melting point. And so sometimes with a lot of lights, they would really start to get soft, and but then also if the room was too cold, sometimes we were shooting on the stage, and it was really cold in the winter, and the puppets would get quite tough. So there was like a perfect temperature that was like that we had sometimes, but we never really, sometimes we had problems with where arms started to fall off, or like legs wouldn't be able to support themselves. So there were problems with.
And then the same issues with the puppets as well. But then practically we'd have multiples of all of them due to the fact that they got dirty and months of wear and tear on these poor puppets. They would die, and then some had to get. We switched them out. We were very fortunate to have 15 of these guys, all of different forms that we then molded into different characters. So, which helped you, which I guess then comes to answer your final bit about the hardest part, which was all I think stop motion animations is time, the devil of time coming up to get us when we knew we had to hit. We ran over by a small bit, which was probably the hardest part, but we made it in the end, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you. We will stay with the techniques, but I jump to Shoko, because you take us on a nice ride with your style. So that's my question about making your own visual narration with the style you are getting us. So do you think, because in the end your movie is a documentary, so do you think the animation like a form of expression, it's better to do documentaries. Actually, yesterday I have a Q&A with the director of the movie The Unseen, which is also the animated documentary, and in some way it's similar because of the women that they're in The Unseen. They don't want to be shown, so the animator need to, do it with carton boxes. But what about you? About your visual effects, I would say, but
as I said, I think it's very important to protect the protagonist, but I think in this topic it's very important to get to know the women, how they look like, what clothes they are wearing, and what kind of types they are. And so I took many pictures of the protagonist and also of myself, and but I wanted to have them also like perfectish, but not perfect, but not perfect enough, kind of, because the hairs are not like hairs, but they're paper. The hairs are out of the paper, and the eyes are original eyes from the protagonist. So I think the facial expression on the puppets were very important for this part of the film. And but I think animation is necessary for an animated documentary or for documentaries in general when they talk about their past and when archived materials are not available, or when they talk something about very abstract, like feelings and emotions, then which is very complex. So I try to translate it into this kind of design I made.
Yeah, but you also done your own vision of Richard Ramirez, right? Which is like demonic guy. So what about this?
Yes, that it was very important to not to glorify him, and as also I didn't. It's a kind of a mixture of the mass media, how they described him, and how the women described him, and how I saw him. And I didn't want to show him as a handsome guy, like so many people said, because I didn't want to glorify him, and I mostly didn't show his face, actually, only a few times, because I think he didn't deserve that kind of platform. And so I decided to design him that evilish, ugly, gray monster, kind of. Yes.
Okay, thanks. And the last question to Tzor and Tom. What about the shadow figure in your movie? Because for me, it's like I don't really know what to think about it. Because in some way, the main character, she's not struggling with him. She wants to show him something. Is it the good side of society? Because there is a lot of different eyes, right? Which obviously is this bad side of society that want to do something bad with the main character. But what about this shadow figure? Why you put this in your movie? For some hope, or I don't know.
The shadow character, we call him the blue man. It's in his essence, it's the identity that our main character Tamou wishes to be, feels. That's what she is. That's what he is. And in certain parts in her life, she confronts him with her true self. And only by the end of the close to the end of the film, she accepts that and become who she was always meant to be. And so that is the main reason. That's the blue guy. But it's also, like you said, you didn't fully understood that or the purpose of that. And we did wanted to keep it somewhere really vague, not very, we didn't want to feed with a spoon the audience. We wanted to be more of like a journey, and you can read into it as many times or ways you want. And that's, for me, I think that's our success in the film, if I may, in the part where it feels almost really personal, but also you can really relate to it. So you take the journey with our character, but you can read things different depending on what it is that you're looking for. And that's the Blue Man. Sorry, there's anything else to add?
I think that it's really working also from, like what Tom said, is both from the perspective of the audience, like we don't know as the audience exactly who this is, but also Tamou, the character, also doesn't really know who it is. It's a figure that to be afraid of, or to long for, or to try to search for, but also kind of like is basically the struggle of like not knowing exactly who you are and being both very attracted to it and both afraid of it. So to use this character as the the goal, like the flag at the end of the maze, is what the character was there for.
Okay, thank you. That was my last question. I hope you are not so tired. Thank you, all the audience. I hope there was a lot of people watching us. That was the Q&A session regarding the 6th short film competition set. My guest was Shoko Hara, director of Just a Guy, Tom Prezman, co-director of Tamou, Tzor Edery, the co-director of Tamou, Daniel Quirke, the director of Song of a Lost Boy, and Jay McDonald, the producer of A Song of a Lost Boy. Thank you guys for being with us, and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Posłuchaj podcastów Estrady Poznańskiej. Znajdź najlepszy dla siebie. O bogatej historii estrady. Podcast filmowy Kina Muza. O kobietach i kulturze, nie tylko dla kobiet. O muzyce i artystach, których warto posłuchać. O grach i kulturze grania. Podcast dla rodziców. Jak nie zwariować. Podcast o serialach. Podpowiadamy, co zobaczyć. Do usłyszenia.